Hello everyone, welcome back to the Organon classroom with Dr. Gazala. Here we are with episode 6 of our lecture series for the chronic miasms by Dr. J.H. Allen. Today will be the final episode on the miasm of Psora as given by Allen. So we are going to study the basic symptoms of Psora. When asked in exams to write the symptoms of Psora or the manifestations of Psora as given by J.H. Allen, we are going to include our following pointers. Let's start with the lecture for today. The chronic miasms, basic symptoms of Psora and the rubrics, okay, by J.H. Allen. We are going to start with how are we going to study this work. Okay, by studying this work we mean how are we going to elicit the symptoms of a certain miasm in the particular patient that is coming to us. Okay, by now we know that we are not always going to get a single miasm patient to us, okay, for cure or for recovery. We are going to most of the time get cases of mixed miasm. Now what is mixed miasm? उसका miasmatic soil, miasmatic diathesis या जो parent miasm है is going to be different, and the presenting one or the active one or the predominant one which is coming to us in that phase is going to be something else. ठीक है, तो अब ये दो जब miasm एक साथ एक ही patient में आ रहे हैं, so we need to know our base symptoms right enough for both the miasm so that we will be able to differentiate between the two. Right, makes sense to us. So now as we will be studying ahead the symptoms of Psora, we will be also studying symptoms of psychosis and syphilis later when we are going to cover that part. Right after this lecture, I will be uploading a short PPT, okay, for you guys to know about the different pointers of miasm, for like if it is Psora syphilis psychosis or if it's Psora tubercular or it's only Psora psychotic. ठीक है, तो ऐसा जो डिफरेंशिएशन आएगा जो अपने को यही पार्ट में एलन ने दिया हुआ है इन द बेसिक सिम्टम्स ऑफ सोरा वाले पार्ट में इन द टेक्स्ट, तो वो आपके पास एक हैंडी रहेगा इन केस यू आर आस्क्ड अबाउट डिफरेंशिएट द सिम्टम्स between any of the systems that you're getting. अगर GI का है तो GI में क्या डिफरेंस आएगा, अगर सेंसोरियम है तो क्या सेंसेस में डिफरेंस आएगा. ठीक है, तो ये होगा एक छोटा सा प्रेजेंटेशन आफ्टर दिस लेक्चर कम्स टू यू. एंड with this we will talk about the importance of taking family history. Okay, as spoken earlier, Allen has given a lot of importance to the law of inheritance. He says that is where the diseases are passed on, right? हम लोगों ने डोमिनेंट जीन, रेसेसिव जीन्स वगैरह इसका सब रेफरेंस लेकर भी इन द पास्ट लेक्चर्स वी हैव स्टडीड कि कैसे द डिजीजेस आर पास्ड ऑन, राइट? तो वो चीज को कौन से पॉइंट पे वो शुरू हो सकता है, द प्रोबेबल पॉइंट, ठीक है, एंड देन टू नो कि आगे जाके वेयर ऑल इट कुड कम. दैट इज वाई इट बिकम्स इम्पोर्टेंट कि हम अपनी फैमिली हिस्ट्री जाने पेशेंट की. ठीक है, सो वी हैव टू प्रोक्योर फ्रॉम देम एज क्लियर एंड परफेक्ट अ क्लिनिकल हिस्ट्री एज इट इज पॉसिबल. ठीक है, क्लिनिकल हिस्ट्री अभी पेशेंट की भी होने वाली है, क्लिनिकल हिस्ट्री उसके फैमिली की भी होने वाली है. ठीक है, दैट इज वाई दैट टाइमलाइन इज इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर अस, for the patient himself as an individual and for the family history. Okay, so we go back into the family history of father, mother, sisters, brothers, and all of it together. ठीक है, we take parents का maternal, paternal, both the sides. Clinical history of uncles and aunts, which is sometimes of more importance. Okay, now this is what Allen has written in the book, and he emphasizes a lot on these points. ठीक है, जब हम पेशेंट की जब we have to cure the root, right, the root of that disease, so you have to go in the root where the disease was actually formed up and passed on. Okay, makes sense to us. With that thought, we'll read out that psychosis and syphilis is of course never to be forgotten. अभी ये जो अपन अपना psoric manifestations, now we are studying Psora, so we are going to go in the depth of it. ठीक है, but we are not going to forget about psychosis and syphilis, whether it is acquired form or it is through heredity. ठीक है, एक्वायर्ड वाला याद है जो हम लोग ने गोनोरिया का केस देखा था, दैट एलन हैड स्पोकन टू अस अबाउट. ठीक है, सो दैट उसका रेफरेंस लेते हुए we are going to say that psychosis and syphilis is of course never to be forgotten, even if it is in acquired form or directly through heredity. The clinical blueprint of Psora means the clinical symptoms that we are going to see across in Psora as a miasm, which will come in through predominantly in a psoric patient. Okay, अभी exam matrix आपको दिख रहा है. Last slide. Stay up till the end. There's something nice and something which will make it easier for you guys to remember Psora at a glance. ठीक है. So starting off here, the core diagnostic triad of Psora. So whenever I have a question which is going to be for discussion of Psora by J.H. Allen, तो उसमें I have to include mind, GI and skin, ठीक है, as my hallmark and as the presenting and as the foundation part of my answer or my presentation. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये तीन levels पे Psora acts out and out and shows predominant and peculiar symptoms. All right, so the mind, hypersensitive and quick, severe anxiety, foreboding, mental exhaustion follows exertion. Okay, as it is, no change in the words, guys. All right, digestive perversion, which means GI में क्या alterations हो गए. So abnormal insatiable hunger, specific craving, sweets, acids, aversions, meats, poor assimilation, exhaustion after eating. Third, the most important, skin, the ultimate venting mechanism. ठीक है, सोरा स्टार्ट ही वहीं पे होता है, right? All of us we know, as we call it as the itch, right? तो the relentless itching aggravated by heat. So mind, GI and skin forms the basis of the diagnostic triad for Psora. Psora is the underlying functional disturber, as we all know, marked by hypersensitivity, lack of assimilation and active outward expressions. अब सोरिक माइंड में क्या होगा, एक्टिविटी फॉलोड बाय प्रोस्ट्रेशन, मतलब एक्टिविटी वो अपने आप को इतना ज्यादा exert कर देगा that it ends up into exhaustion. ठीक है, both mental and physical is going to come on later. We'll talk about the mental first. ठीक है, so hyperactivity and speed, pacing, quick, active, highly irritable, disposition, always afraid of forgetting something or using the wrong words, extreme anxiety, the fears filled with forebodings, intense fear of death, illness or incurability, timing anxiety often spikes on awakening or around the new moon. ठीक है, now we all know Sora is full of fears, right? Sora is full of anxiety. Sora is full of actually mental symptoms altogether. Now this is such an interesting topic, okay, but because we are limited by time, we are going to cover up later in our chronic diseases by Hahnemann series. Okay, the miasms in the most dramatic way possible, which will make it very easier for you to diagnose a patient based on miasm. Okay, so we'll get back here and come to rapid exhaustion. So the crash, prostrated easily from mental exertion, physical response, mental effort causes a sudden rush of heat throughout the entire body. ठीक है, hypersensitivity runs in the psoric miasm right from the mental to the physical level. Okay, the cognitive instability and changeable moods. The mood swings are so predominant and peculiar. The sudden transition from cheerfulness to sadness or peevishness without cause. Fault finding, constant complaining, amelioration, weeping often palliates temporarily. Alright. Mental diseases 210 to 230 aphorism, 6th edition of Organon by Hahnemann. Okay, what do we know about this? Are mental diseases psoric in origin? If you know, you know. If not, go back and see. Cognitive vanishing. Thoughts vanish while reading or writing. Cannot control thoughts. Feeling deprived of thoughts. Dread of labor and dread of being alone. The sensorium and head. The morning migraine. Migraine, as we all know, the functional disorder. ठीक है, जब we have confirmed that there is no pathology going around in that case of headache that the patient is presenting with, no other pathology. ठीक है, तब जाके वे diagnose it as migraine. ठीक है, तो आउट एंड आउट फंक्शनल डिसऑर्डर होता है. तो सोरा में उसका क्या होगा, sorry, vertigo characteristics, whirling and rushing of blood, worse from walking, looking up quickly or rising, accompanied by digestive disturbances and nausea. Headache signature, which means the peculiar type of headache that it has is location, usually frontal, sharp, severe, paroxysmal, timing worse in the morning, grows worse as the sun ascends. Okay, Which remedy is the one which is aggravated at noon? Please write it down in the comments if you know, and it helps a lot in such types of cases. Diagnostic keynotes: headaches are relieved by quiet rest and sleep. Patient experiences a peculiar intense hunger during or right before the headache starts. Okay. External expressions: scalp, face, and senses. The scalp and hair appearance is dry, lusterless, tangles, breaks easily, severe itching, dry, scaly dandruff. The face, pale, earthy complexion, rough, pimply with a distinct unwashed appearance, dry, peeling, and rough. Which remedy gives up a shabby look and shabby appearance? Please answer that off in the comments. The eyes, vision, photophobia, vision deeply affected by the latent miasm surrounding swollen and itching of the eyelids, right? The digestive tract, morbid cravings, the positive desires, the desires for acid, sour things, unnatural fancies, indigestible items like chalk, slate, raw potatoes. Negative, that means the aversions, the meat causes illness, revulsions, or is simply rejected. Taste perversions: patient reports abnormal taste in the mouth, sweet, sour, or bitter. Often experiences sour or bitter eructations, that is water brash. Okay, this is the hunger cycle. Okay, that is mostly seen and in psoric patients. Okay, so unnatural hunger, जैसे हम लोग ने कहा insatiable craving होने वाली है. They have suddenly a sensation of emptiness. ठीक है, या तो all gone sensation in the stomach, and they even have the cravings then waking up at night to eat. ठीक है, midnight cravings and all, when the patient talks about, so that could point out towards the psoric miasm. And that leads to consumption, so the patient is going to hog on the food. Okay, जब वो hog है, insatiable craving किसको बोलते हैं, कि the patient keeps on eating but उसको वो feeling of fullness आती ही नहीं है. So the patient just putting, keeps on putting stuff in his mouth. Okay, beyond the capacity of digestion. अब जब इतना ज़्यादा excess में, like we always say that anything in excess is dangerous. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे भी it stands true, because how much ever the patient is eating, it's not going to get digested. So eventually it is going to give him issues of the GI, right? Starting from the basic heartburn and indigestion. Immediate exhaustion होने वाला है, great prostration and sleepiness immediately after eating, which will be followed by gastric distress like fullness, bloating, hunger returns shortly after eating, and he restarts the cycle. Okay, bowels and evacuation. तो इसमें psoric patient में the base is going to be the chronic constipation that the patient is going to complain of, but the acute expression is going to be of diarrhea. ठीक है, now what does this signal us to? The diagnosis, the clinical diagnosis that we know as, is the IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. ठीक है, yeah, it is also called as, sometimes the paradoxical diarrhea or the overflow diarrhea which happens. ठीक है, because वो impacted stools इतना होता है. Okay, in the colon, the impacted stools, so the liquid stool leaks around that harder impacted fecal mass. Okay, which is stuck into the colon, and hence the diarrhea. Alright, तो ऐसे cases में it becomes important again when you see timeline of the personal history and the family history. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे important होगा तो अपने को पता चलेगा, and it will help us point out towards the psoric miasm that it is. Alright, so constipation किस type का होगा? Stubborn with absolutely no desire for stool, hard, difficult and scanty stool. Sensation is often accompanied by emptiness in stomach. ठीक है, सी इवन जीआई में जब उसको क्रेविंग और खाने का मन होता है, देर इज स्टिल insatiable hunger, insatiable cravings जो है, उसके साथ में there is an empty, there's a goneness feeling, emptiness feeling in the stomach. ठीक है, इसीलिए the patient wants more, right? तो यहाँ पे भी it is the same thing that we are talking about. So diarrhea, the acute presentation is going to be worse at night or early in the morning. The patient has to rush to the washroom. Okay, offensive, brown and watery, and often painless. All right. चेस्ट एंड हार्ट, द फंक्शनल ओवर एक्टिविटी ऑफ दिस सिस्टम नाउ। ठीक है, तो कार्डियोथोरैक्स में क्या होने वाला है? Respiratory, the chest cough is going to be dry, teasing, spasmodic, aggravated in the morning, usually tasteless or sweetish mucus. Cardiovascular, the heart, the symptoms are of functional disturbances and not any structural organic disease as such. Okay, violent beating of the heart that shakes the entire body, worse in the evening after eating or upon awakening from sleep. ठीक है, तो अभी देखो ये जो सिम्टम है ना, हाइपर सेंसिटिविटी हो गई, ओवर एक्टिविटी हो गई, तो ये दिस गोज अराउंड द एंटायर माइजम, ये आपको हर सिस्टम में दिखेगा ऑफ द बॉडी। ठीक है, इसीलिए उसको वी कॉल इट एज अ पेक्यूलियर वन। ओके, वी कॉल इट द हॉलमार्क ऑफ दैट माइजम। ऐसे ही होती है टेंडेंसीज, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट टेंडेंसीज ऑफ पेशेंट, राइट, तो टेंडेंसी इज नॉट सिस्टम रिलेटेड या सिस्टम लिमिटेड, इट इज थ्रू आउट द पेशेंट एज अ पर्सन, तो वो अपने को हेल्प करती है टू डिफरेंशिएट, okay, between patient to patient and disease to disease. All right, so we have to give utmost importance कि जब हम स्टार्टिंग में ना, इसीलिए important होता है आइडियोलॉजी और बेसिक्स पढ़ना। when once you know that through, you can easily apply it out to the other systems as well. Okay, extremities and restless slumber. Okay, so extremities में क्या हो रहा है? General weakness, clumsiness, awkwardness, cramping in the calves, clinical keynote, intense burning in the soles of the feet. Tell me the clinical diagnosis for it. Write down in the comments. The patient constantly uncovers them at night to cool them off. Sleep and vitality, restless and unrefreshing sleep, awakens anxious, melancholic, and exhausted. The classic state is going to be that the patient feels as though they were born tired. Okay, tiredness and exhaustion, which we mean is running across systems in Sora. All right. नाउ द स्किन, ठीक है, जहाँ पे वाइटल फोर्स ने वो डिजीज को पुश किया है, जहाँ पे यहाँ पे जहाँ पे अपना प्रेजेंटेशन हो रहा है, ठीक है, सो द अपीयरेंस is going to be dry, rough, dirty, distinctly unwashed looking. Which remedy which will tell you about such a look of the patient, very ragged and rubbed together? Sensation, the feel, it's going to be intense, intolerable itching and crawling. Itching has to be there. Okay, this pruritus is hallmark of Sora. ठीक है, reaction, the response, patient must scratch until the skin is raw or bleeding. Scratching provides temporary relief. Aggravation, terribly aggravated by the warmth of the bed. ठीक है, now you need to differentiate always and ask the patient during case taking कि warmth of the bed होता है या नाइट टाइम में सिर्फ लाई डाउन करते हैं तब होता है। ठीक है, जो पेशेंट विल टेल यू कि जब भी अगर वो लेट रहा है, ओके, जब भी वो सोने जा रहा है, या इफ ही इज जस्ट लाइंग up comfortably in bed, it starts to itch, so that's warmth of the bed. But when the patient is specifically telling you कि जब सिर्फ रात में सोने जा रहा है तब उसकी itching बढ़ रही है, ठीक है, so that is aggravation at night. Okay, minute details guys helps you with all these modalities and all the rubric formations later then. Okay, so danger of suppression, as we all know, eruptions disappearing suddenly or treated topically will drive the miasm inward, creating severe secondary functional diseases. Master modalities, aggravation and ameliorations. Aggravated, worse in the mornings, approach of night, eating, mental exertion, warmth of bed, specifically for skin itching, suppression of skin eruptions. ठीक है, ये जनरल एग्रेवेशन अमिलियोरेशन है, दिस हैज टू बी देयर। जैसे ट्रायड रहेगा आपका, जो डायग्नोस्टिक ट्रायड था अपना माइंड, जीआई और स्किन, वैसे ही ये मोडालिटीज हैज टू बी देयर इन योर answer. Ameliorated by perspiration, free natural discharges, quiet rest and sleep, especially for headaches, and weeping for mental anxiety. Okay, now the clinical investigation on how are we going to take the perfect clinical history which is going to signal us off towards the miasm of Sora. ठीक है, तीनों डायग्नोस्टिक ट्राइड पहले चेक करेंगे, द मेंटल्स, हाइपर सेंसिटिविटी, चेंजिंग मूड्स, एक्टिव एंजाइटी, ठीक है, हैबिट्स, द जीआई, अननेचुरल डिजायर्स, अवर्जन्स, मोड्स ऑफ लिविंग, ओके, Third, the skin. Examine the surface. Check for the dryness, roughness, history of suppressed eruptions. Last but not the least, the generational tree. ठीक है, perfect family history. Even if required, ask till up the uncles and the aunts. All right. This is your exam matrix. Okay. The Soric mind: quick, active, easily exhausted, fear of incurability, changeable moods, vanishing thoughts. Fear of incurability, a very very important remedy that you have studied in write down in the comments if possible. Physical generals: unwashed appearance, dry lusterless hair, burning soles, must uncover at night, born tired. Digestion and evacuation: unnatural hunger, weak after eating, crave sweets, acid, abhors meats, abhors matlab aversion to meat, morning diarrhea, stubborn constipation. Skin and modalities: dry, intensely itching skin, worse morning eating, warmth of bed, better perspiration, free discharges, and sleep. Okay, ये आना ही आना है. Then you are going to add up and elaborate each symptom. All right, this will become the skeleton of your answer. With these guys, we finish off our Sora as a miasm by J.H. Allen. Coming up next is The Rise of Psychosis by Allen and later Syphilis, which we will complete before your exams begin. So it is easier for you to have certain pointers which you will add to your original notes and make up a better answer. Okay, follow up us on Instagram for such handouts, one where you can go for your last moment revisions. And stay tuned, have fun, study well. Thank you so much.